Who tells your story? The emotional final words in the Broadway hit Hamilton. It's a powerful reminder that our legacies aren't just financial, they are personal. Today's guest is here to talk about how you can capture and preserve your story or the story of someone you love before those moments slip away. Welcome to another episode of the Simply Retirement Podcast, where we want to empower and educate women to live your retirement on your terms. I'm your host, Eric Blake, practicing retirement planner with over 25 years of experience, founder of Blake Wealth Management, and I would not be the man I am today without the women in my life. This episode is going to feel just a little different. Instead of focusing on the dollars and cents of retirement, we're going to be talking about something just as valuable. That's your legacy. And not just the financial kind, but the stories, the memories, and lessons you want to pass down. Whether this is your legacy, a parent, a close friend, or family member that you care deeply about, today's conversation will show you why capturing those stories matter and how to begin. For all the links and resources shared in this episode, you can visit the simplyretirementpodcast.com. Joining me today is Zoe Martin, founder of the Zoe Martin, a personal historian who's passionate about helping people and organizations preserve their most important stories. She also has a pretty amazing story herself, and I'm looking forward to hearing that. Zoe, welcome to the Simply Retirement Podcast.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here, Eric. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I want to start there. I want to give you the opportunity to share your story, what led you down this path, and why helping people preserve their stories has become such a personal passion for you.
It's very interesting. I had not heard the quote from Hamilton. I've never seen it. And so I was like,
you got to see it. You got to see it.
That's perfect. Who's going to tell your story, right? And that's really the whole gist of this new pivot that I've taken, where I was a personal brand and headshot photographer prior. After losing my baby sister to breast cancer, my world changed. Everything changed for me, and it reflects in this business model now. So she was 35 years old. Christina was a marathon runner. She was vivacious. She was full of life. And on the outside, she just looked so healthy. So when we got the breast cancer diagnosis of stage 4, we were floored. And she was with us for another 5 years. And during that time, she had intended to write letters to her only child, my niece. And she had our sister Cecilia create some custom stationery. And then during hospice care, I lived with her for 2 weeks. And when Christina asked me to get the letters, I was thrilled because I'd forgotten about them, completely forgotten that these were something that she was going to have passed on. So I got the letters, and when I went to her bedside, I was saddened to find out that she hadn't written on any of them. And at this point, she was heavily medicated and in and out of sleep, and she was unable to hold a cup. She couldn't hold a pen. She wasn't going to be able to write the letters. And so immediately it was kind of comical that I had grabbed a bunch of pens thinking, I don't know what color ink she's going to want to use. But in reality, realizing that she couldn't write them, I grabbed my phone and I said, here's what we're going to do, sweetheart. I'm going to record you. Say what you want to say, and we'll worry about getting pen to paper later. So I was able to record a couple of videos, and then she fell asleep. Boom. When she woke up to record the last one, she was so medicated, it was almost incoherent what she was saying. But I was able to get those last few words a couple of days before she passed. And then I went to my niece after the celebration of life. I said, I've got something for you. And I explained that it wasn't my place to write on those letters, but that I had these videos for her. So what was really heart-wrenching was as we started to watch the videos, the dog was at the foot of the bed. And when Tiki heard Christina's voice, her head spun around, and my niece and I just started bawling because we understood how powerful just hearing her voice and that recognition was to the dog. And so that was one of the reasons that I decided to start recording life story videos, interview conversations for families. But the other reason was because there were 4 of us sisters. And when we found out Christina was going into hospice care, the 4 of us were going to be together. The youngest sister, Stephanie, came to visit, and when she saw Christina just sitting up in a hospital bed, she'd lost all her hair again. She was frail. She had oxygen. It broke her heart. And I thought, that's not how we want to remember Christina, and that's not how she wants to be remembered. What they didn't know was that I had hired a photographer to come to the house and photograph all 4 of us for one last professional photo. We hadn't been photographed in over 30 years. But I contacted the photographer and asked her not to come because it wasn't the right time. And so we missed our opportunity. So the business now, I'm intentionally recording multi-generational portraits, and I want people to understand the significance. Yes, we have our phone. Yes, we take pictures every day. But how many of those pictures are we proud to hang on our wall and to see them and to showcase them? So the new business is to honor my sister Christina. And in honor of her, a portion goes to the Bridge Breast Network here in Dallas that provides underserved communities with breast cancer resources.
That is amazing. Well, and I think that obviously leads us to our next question, and because you talk about the importance of now and why it's so crucial for families not to wait to capture these stories. And you've already touched on it, but please talk a little bit more about that.
100%. Christina was only 35. And oftentimes we don't want to think about mortality, but at the same time, how many of us have lost someone that was precious to us and it was too soon? We don't have a designated timestamp that we know of. And so, children pass. I'm a volunteer for an organization called Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep. That organization honors families when their babies pass. And I mean, there's no definitive time that is a good time. So do it now, because you just don't know when you're going to take your last breath.
Well, and I think that's the other thing that I think when you and I first had a conversation about coming on the podcast, you think about how most people assume that legacy is just really for parents or grandparents, but talk about why it's important to include that entire family in the process.
Absolutely. This is actually very fresh. My husband was 4 years old when his father passed away.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, he didn't get the opportunity to create a lot of memories with him, but he has some. And it's a really heart-wrenching situation because our understanding of his passing was that it was an accidental drowning. But as years have passed, it's almost 50 years now, someone in the family is claiming that he was the victim of murder.
Oh, wow.
And that it's really, it's kind of confusing because we're not sure what the truth is because this person isn't giving more details. And so, he was a child and he had thoughts about that time. Even today, I was talking to him. He says he remembers being in the living room where he was when his grandfather came in and said, "We're going to speak about this now. I want the young kids out and we're never going to speak about it again." He says, "I remember where I was sitting. I remember how they ushered me out of the room. And, it was traumatic." So while no, not all circumstances are traumatic, every person has some form of memories that they're housed around something that's happened to us. And a lot of the memories are good memories, right? You have your memory of your first roller coaster ride. You have your memory of when you got to celebrate your birthday with your grandparents. I mean, there's so many memories that we have. But as time goes on, we lose some of those memories. And I don't know if you're old enough, Eric. There was a show where children, I wish I could remember the name of it. Basically, they were interviewing children. Children say the darndest things or something. And it was a really cute TV show because kids do, right? They say things that are very off the cuff, and their perception of reality is a little skewed because they're innocent, and that's beautiful. So whether you're recording your child and getting their stories and their perspective at a young age, and then coming back to them 5, 10, 15 years later, whether that's at milestones or family reunions, holidays, however, there's an opportunity when you're together that you can record those and look back. And it's funny because you think of things now when someone else brings them up. For instance, Thanksgiving, a family member will bring up a story and, "Oh, I forgot about that," right? So record it while it's fresh.
Well, that's the funny thing is we've got all this technology at our hands, and you just don't. Sometimes you say, "Well, why didn't you pull out your phone when this was happening, or when the child was saying this, or your grandmother was saying that?" And it's like we've got all this technology that you spend more time playing games and doing all these other things actually than using it for what it could be used for.
Exactly.
Well, the other thing is, you talk about, obviously this is a podcast about retirement planning for the most part, but one of the things I always stress, especially for our clients and in the audience, is that, retirement plan, financial planning should go beyond just the finances. So when you're talking about estate planning, and that comes down to, well, how's my money going to pass? But I think it's just as important to talk about, the whole life planning. And it's more than just the money that's going to pass. It's those memories. It's those times spent at holidays. Can you share a little bit more about that, and what are, kind of what whole life planning would mean to you, and in context of what you do?
Sure. I think there's been well, you're familiar with it, this generation where this the sandwich generation, right? So we're caring for loved ones and then we're also caring for younger children. And so there's a lot happening around us. And I think we aren't prioritizing things with intention. What I mean by that is, yes, we're together for holidays, but how much time did we plan for the meal versus having conversations? How much time did we put into making sure that everyone is taken care of? We know what hotel they're staying in or whether they're staying with us and what time we have to get them from the airport and get them back to the airport. But actually having those meaningful conversations when you're together.
Right.
We miss opportunities because we don't plan for them. So yes, you're planning for your retirement and you're planning for that wealth distribution, but then your story, anyone we all have perceptions even of family and friends, and it's what we think of them, right? And so when someone says, well, what do you think of so-and-so? We give our perspective, right? But
We always want to talk.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But how many of us actually know about our great grandparents, our grandparents even? And one of these days we're going to be gone. Who's going to remember our story if we don't tell it ourselves? So I think having intentional time, planning a time, whether you do it yourself or you hire a professional, you need to have a time, especially when you're all together, to be able to just sit down and record the stories. My grandmother, it's actually my husband's grandmother, passed away at the age of 95 this year. And to my knowledge, I was the only person who sat down with her and recorded her stories. I'm so grateful that I did that. She didn't want me to turn the video camera on, which was okay. I would have preferred to have the video camera on her, but she did allow me to record audio, and I can hear her giggle and the expression in her voice. It's so beautiful, and I cherish those, and I have them securely backed up, which is, I cannot stress that enough. You have cell phones, but they get damaged or destroyed. Same with your computers. A house fire can happen, but your computer crashing is more likely. And so to have them securely backed up on something, that is super important as well.
Well, I think I'm so glad you talked about that, because one of the things that I think maybe you and I touched on when we had our first conversation, but my grandmother is 90 years old, and I'm so fortunate to still have her in my life. And we have 5 generations. So my granddaughter is 19 months old. My grandmother's 90. So it's 5 generations of women. I always talk about the 5 generations of women I still have in my life. And my favorite picture, which is right up here above my head, is all 5 of them and me. And this picture is about a year old, but it was the opportunity for my grandma to meet her great great granddaughter. And we've got the picture, but I always think about when I'm talking to her, because she at 90, she has the sundowners. And so when she gets at night, she starts forgetting where she's at and those types of things. But what's so crazy is her memory of the experience of the past. So she has one of those picture frames, those electronic picture frames that just rotates the pictures through. And it's just amazing when she sees one of those. Like she saw one of me and my dog back when I was probably 13 years old. And it was just like we were back at the lake, because I was running with the dog at the lake, and it was just like we were there. And so we started talking about those types of things. We had talked about my grandfather, who passed away when she was only 62. And that's a big part of my story. But now I'm thinking about, I should have done this. I should have done more of what you're talking about, more recording these things besides just enjoying the conversation, but actually recording some of those. So if you would talk a little bit about somebody who wants to start doing something like this, maybe they should think about a professional, but maybe it's just, hey, let's just start somewhere and start recording some of these. What would be your recommendation on where to start with this?
Definitely. There's no better time than the present. And if that means that your family is overseas or in another state and you can't readily get to them, record it virtually. You can totally do that through there's Zoom and Google Meet, they're free. and you can record them there. You can take your cell phone and meet them and record them. You can set it on a tripod, or, you can use a book. If you just want to stand your phone up on a book, you could do that. Ideally, you want to have some good audio, and there's little, Rode makes little video mics that you can use. And that probably is the best thing that you could do, is to make a little investment in a microphone so that you've got good audio, because otherwise you're seeing lips and then you've got background noise. I could get a little more technical, such as use a carpeted room. Don't be near a fan or a refrigerator so you don't have that hissing in the background. And lighting is super important. For example, you're lit probably with a studio light, whereas I am lit by a window light. But the bad thing you don't ever want to do is, I've got a window facing me. You don't want to have the recording turned around where the window is at the person's back that you're recording, because then they're backlit and you can't see them very well.
Right.
Those are a handful of things. But on my blog, I have some more information on what you can do, questions you can ask, how to get the conversation started. And I think that would probably be a really good resource for your listeners.
Awesome. Well, and we talked a little bit about the financial aspect of retirement planning and estate planning and things like that. And actually, back on episode 61, I was joined by Brendan Frazier, who is a chief behavioral officer for RFG Advisory, who we fall under the umbrella of. And he talked about the purpose of that episode was talking about the science of happier spending. And one of the key things was buying experiences over things. And I think this very much falls in alignment with that, of saying, okay, spending your money on this, something that's going to, you would love to say it's going to last forever. We can never say forever, but it's going to last a long, long time. So if you would, I would love for you to share a little bit about how your process works. Somebody reaches out to you and said, hey, I'd be interested in engaging your services. What's the first step, or what are the first few steps they could take if they really wanted to go all in and engage with somebody like you?
Sure. There are a variety of people that do something similar to what I do, which is recording life stories. I offer a few different options. One of them would be the multi-generational portrait. And again, I think that's super important. I love that you have your family right above you. You've got those 5 generations there, and it includes you. That's beautiful. So having it framed and actually hung on the wall is something that not a lot of photographers do. More often than not, you find the photographers that are going to give you all the digital files. And to me, you've got all the digital files on your phone, but then they're stuck there. And so I want to create an experience where we're going to make sure that everyone that's involved in this portrait, I've spoken to them. I want to make sure that I get to know them so that we can bring out the personality in the photograph. I'm going to offer professional hair and makeup. I have 4 professional hair and makeup artists on my team, because oftentimes, especially women, but also men, can feel uncomfortable about the way they look. And so a good boost and a little bit of pampering is to have their hair and makeup done on set that day. I'm offering to go to your home and help you choose what to wear, which I think is super. A lot of times what we think fits but doesn't photograph well. So we want to make sure that the outfits that we choose not only fit well, but just this morning I was on a Zoom call and a gentleman was wearing a very small checkered shirt, and it produced a moire effect, which it kind of, visually looked like it was moving even though it wasn't. And so we want to prevent, very small patterns or competing patterns. So choosing what to wear. I also want to make sure that what you wear is going to match the aesthetic of your home, because we're going to create a custom frame designed specifically for your space. So what colors and what style, what aesthetic is in your home, so that we can match the frame and the colors that you're going to be wearing to fit the space. So that's the portrait side of it. And then I will come back and I will hang the portrait for you, or the succession, the series that we have. And then for the video side, it's a little more in depth. I want to talk a little bit more to everyone, because like I said, you have memories that someone else may not remember. And we want to be sure to ask questions that lead into that conversation. I'm a wonderful conversationalist, and I like to draw that conversation out. So when I have leads to go on, that's fantastic. So then after we have the video discovery call, again, in-home wardrobe consultation. I will meet you either at your location or in my studio. I have a studio here in downtown McKinney at the Cotton Mill. And then from there, that recording, we could do one person, we could do multiple people. It kind of depends on how many people are involved, what the end product is going to be, whether people want to have the full audio minus my questions with some background music and some B-roll. If you want to add in your own pictures, or maybe you've got some home movies that you want to incorporate, or if you just kind of want like a reel, like after a wedding, oftentimes the bride and groom will get a short video that's just the highlights. So it kind of depends on what the client wants. And then if you want a combination, if you want to do the portrait experience along with the legacy video experience and combine that, we could do that. It could be something we could do over multiple days. We could do it at your lake house. We could do it, wherever you'd like. And virtual is also an option. Did that answer your question?
Absolutely. No, that was awesome. Well, and by the way, my grandmother at 90 years old, first thing she does when she gets up is she has help. She has 24/7 healthcare providers. She has to make sure she gets her lipstick on. So every single morning, doesn't matter. So completely understand that part of it. If you would, I think it might be hard to beat your own personal story with your baby sister, but is there a story, a family that jumped out at you, that stood out, that you've gone through this process with?
Yes, a friend of mine had her mother contact me because her grandmother was going to be having a 100th birthday celebration. So this planning took place in November. The party was not going to be until May. And there was a lot of gap there in the time. So a few things. I said, let's back up a little bit. Yes, I can definitely record the birthday party, but tell me a little bit more about your family. Like, how many generations are there? So there were 4 generations. There are 4 generations. And I said, when was the last time you all were professionally photographed? They never had been. And so I said, let's get you all into the studio. We'll do the whole experience. And then from there, I would like to record Mima like a little closer to the birthday and have that for you. So we have a culmination of the photos from her life, the photos that we just took as a multi-generational portrait, and then the video interview, and create a slideshow that we'll be able to present at the 100th birthday party. And so I got to meet 4 generations of the family. I got to meet even more people at the party. And it was just such a fun opportunity. And I am in contact with that family still. And just, I know them. So I love that. That's a bonus, being able to build relationships with families like that.
Absolutely. And I call my grandmother Meemaw, and I'm the one that named her. So I got like all kinds of credibility throughout the family. So everybody where she lives calls her Meemaw, beside family, friends, neighbors, everybody.
Aww.
So but yeah, it's awesome. So I want to make sure that our listeners know how to connect with you, learn more about your work, websites, social media, anything you would like to share, please feel free.
Absolutely. You can find me at thezoemartin.com, and it's on social media, the Zoe Martin. And it's not because that I think I'm all that. It's because zoemartin.com was already taken. So
you got to do what you got to do, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Any other websites, anything else that you or social media that you would like to share? Anything like that?
Social media is not my favorite thing to be on.
No worries.
I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram, Facebook, building a YouTube soon.
Good enough. Good enough. Well, we will definitely make sure we share all of Zoe's links when the show notes, the episode summary, we'll put that in there. Zoe, thank you so much for joining me today and reminding us that moments truly do become memories. If today's conversation sparked something in you, I would definitely encourage you to take that small step towards preserving stories that matter. Reach out to Zoe, but do something to record those memories. If it's a parent, if it's a loved one, whatever it might be, make sure you're doing something to preserve those, to preserve that legacy. That is it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening and for tuning in. For all the links and resources, again, you can go to the simplyretirementpodcast.com. Please don't forget to like, follow, and share the show. And until next time, please remember, retirement is not the end of the road. It's the start of a new journey.
That's it for today's episode of the Simply Retirement Podcast. We hope you found our insights and advice helpful in planning for a fulfilling retirement. Don't forget to take action on what you've learned today. Visit our website at blakewealthmanagement.com to learn more about our firm and review our Simply Retirement Roadmap process to get you on the right path to the retirement you deserve. And don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and we look forward to helping you achieve your retirement goals. Remember, retirement is not the end of the road. It is the start of a new journey. So embrace it and make the most of it. Until next time, take care. Content here is for illustrative purposes and general information only. It is not legal, tax, or individualized financial advice, nor is it a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any specific security, or engage in any specific trading strategy. Results will vary. Past performance is no indication of future results or success. Market conditions change continuously. This commentary reflects the personal opinions, viewpoints, and analyses of Blake Wealth Management. It does not necessarily represent those of RFG Advisory, their clients, or their employees. This commentary should not be regarded as a description of advisory services provided by Blake Wealth Management or RFG Advisory, or performance returns of any client. The views reflected in the commentary are subject to change at any time without notice. Advisory services offered by investment advisory representatives of RFG Advisory, a registered investment advisor, Blake Wealth Management, and RFG Advisory are unaffiliated entities. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where RFG Advisory and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. No advisory services may be rendered by RFG Advisory unless a client agreement is in place.